I'm going to make this very simple for you, Dan. Men should not play sports against women. I'm not going to get into all the bullshit that's going on out here in the world today. If anybody think that, I think they're stupid. I'm not, like I say, I support the gay community 100%. I support the transgender community 100%. But I do not, under any circumstances, under zero, think that men should play sports against women. And if anybody have a problem with that, they're going to have to get over it, because I'm not going to change. I just think it's wrong, period.
Which are what? The science behind this, that men and women are different. And you can call yourself a woman, you can call yourself a cat, call yourself whatever you want, but the facts are what? Trans women are men. And the W in WNBA stands for women.
Before the game, you had a conversation with Sophie Cunningham.
I did.
If you want to share what you talked about, feel free. But more of my question is just how important is it to have those like in-person conversations with people that
I think it's
have
great.
Different views?
I think it's great. I think both of us understand that we have platforms, and, we both talked about, wanting to, more than anything, educate. And there are some things that
Charles Barkley has stated the one thing that most members of the sports media have been afraid to utter aloud. And he stated it without blinking. Barkley expressed his agreement with Sophie Cunningham's stance while he was seated inside the NBA. That men shouldn't participate in women's sports, and he stated it in the same direct, no-nonsense manner that he has used his entire career anytime he believes that something clear is being purposefully made more difficult.
But I'm never going to think it's all right for men to play sports against women. And I don't even think that's controversial. That's the thing that's funny. Like some of this stuff make, like when you see these debates on television, I'm like, yeah, men shouldn't play sports against women. I'm done. I don't want to hear you try to explain it to me. No, I don't want to hear it. I'm not going to argue with you. Men shouldn't play sports against women. I'm done. There's a lot of we can argue over. That ain't one.
Go back to the beginning of this. During the interview, Sophie said clearly that she wishes to safeguard young girls and women participating in sports, and that she thinks competition should remain segregated. Through biological sex.no disparaging remarks or singling out any particular player, just a policy viewpoint expressed in answer to a straightforward inquiry. Weeks of nationwide coverage were sparked by that one response. Barkley, it is the same sentence, was responding when he raised his voice.
You don't see trans men going and saying, I want to play football. I want to play basketball. I want to be. Why there's no trans men going into men's spaces? Why is it trans women that's going into women's spaces? Show me the last time a trans man was on a podium in any sport. Show me the last time a trans man won in cycling, cross country, football. They played on the team, volleyball team, track and field, 4x100 meter relay on track and field, steeplechase, name it. Show me a trans man that have been competitive. Show me one. Show me one.
Since that interview, Sophie's situation has progressed far beyond disagreement. Every time she is jeered, the WNBA has been slow, she touches the ball on the road, and banners have been directed at her at venues. Nearly unwilling to intervene and declare that enough is enough, it began to appear less like fans venting their frustration and more like a concerted attempt to use one player as an example for expressing something that many people secretly agree with.
The fuck are y'all booing Sophie Cunningham at every game now, man? This is what we doing to Sophie, trying to villainize this woman when all she did was what, stand up?
Portland's jeers say it all. The crowd let out loud jeers each time Sophie caught the ball. Sufficient for broadcast microphones to clearly detect it. She didn't recoil. She responded in a manner similar to rivals typically do, by taking a shot directly at those making fun of her and allowing the scoreboard to do the conversing rather than holding a press conference.
The crazies out there are now protesting her at WNBA games. So much so that a coach from another team pulled Sophie aside to have a few words with her and just let her know what she had thought about what Sophie said. Guys, Sophie Cunningham is probably the most popular athlete in the WNBA. If she goes bye-bye, there is no more WNBA. Additionally, have you ever seen Sophie Cunningham play ball before? What on earth makes y'all think that she cares about a bunch of crybabies complaining about an 80-20 issue? Literally, no one wants men and women's sports. It is highly unpopular, and the only people that do want that are people who have likely never played sports before in their lives. So,
however, there is more to the story than meets the EYE.AT away games. Banners with unambiguous messages have appeared to make fun of her remarks on ESPN, and when hostilities between supporters got out of control, venue security had to step in many times. Carrying conflicting signs, this level of fan tension over something that transpired during a WNBA game is uncommon. Completely off the court, and just that illustrates how far this has come outside of basketball.
Super respectful. We were just holding our signs and cheering for both teams. And this lady, older lady, comes up to us, and she comes up to us, and at first I think she's going to be nice, and then she asks, like, what are you guys doing? Something like that. And then it was like, Jesus loves everyone. That's what she told us. And I was like, oh, I know. Like, I'm religious. Like, I know. Like, I know. Nice. Yeah. And she's like, oh, I hope Jesus can forgive you for what sin you've done. And like, something like that. And then she told us that we were effing insane. And she's like, and she went like, insane. Yeah. She's like, you better stop this. And stop pulling this. Yeah. And for you guys, I hope God can save you. This. Yeah. She said, for you to come here and pull this shit. Yeah. She said the word. Yeah. Did she say effing insane or? No, she said the word. And nobody around you spoke up for you. No. So, I will say, Annalie, when I came over, you were in tears. Yeah, I've never been yelled at like that. I mean, I've had people hate on me on the internet, but like, it doesn't really affect me as much because it's just people online.
The moment that truly blasted this open then arrived. Celeste Keaton, a co-owner of the Seattle Storm, accosted two adolescent spectators seated courtside over a placard that simply said, "Thank you," to Sophie for advocating for female athletes. No animosity toward that sign, no assault on any player, just appreciation. Keaton announced their arrival to the girls was crazy and said they wanted forgiveness, and before the evening was over, one of them started crying. After the video went viral, the league finally fined and suspended Keaton, but only after days of public pressure. When Barkley eventually addressed the matter on television, he wasn't merely considering. In an abstract policy argument, he was responding to a disagreement that had already claimed the lives of two children who came to a game to cheer for a player they respect and are shaken because an adult in a position of authority thought it was worthwhile to address their sign.
Sophie Cunningham has said that males, biological males, do not belong in women's sport. That's it. That is the rational, sane, commonly shared stance. It's a safety issue. It's a fairness issue. It's not an anti-trans kids campaign, but this coach saying, oh, trans kids are this is what they do. The straw man argument. She is trying to say that Sophie is against trans kids and she's excluding them and this is evil. No! It's so dumb. It's so evil. It's so calculated. And this is how they silence people.
Barkley did more than just concur with Sophie. He even went so far as to directly warn the league, stating something along the lines of, "You guys need to be really careful how you handle this," emphasizing that attempting to penalize when a player expresses an honest opinion, it creates a risky precedent for all players concerned. Both the league office and the coaches.it sounds lighter than it actually is, from someone who has Barkley's platform and a track record of voicing his opinions regardless of who they offend. Why was this moment more significant then? One point is that Barkley wasn't the only well-known sports figure who wasn't afraid to speak up. Loud.as soon as his remarks were public, other individuals from entirely unrelated sports. Nearly none of the opinions expressed by people throughout the world came close to the WNBA's stated stance on the issue.
So she just says what's true. She says common sense thing, and she gets so much backlash. She's like, men should not be playing in women's sports. Why is that so, like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's a simple statement. She stood by it. That's what I love about when people say things. Don't back down. If you say something, stand by it. And she said it. She backed it up. She's not backing down no matter how much heat she gets from certain people. It's an 80-20 issue. 80% of the country think it's true, 20% don't. The 20% is crushing her. Let them. Who cares? But I love that she didn't back down. I love everything she stands for. She plays like I said, I don't watch WNBA, but I like those two girls right there. Yeah, she's going to get backlash from the girls around her and other teams. And, you know, it's a liberal and mostly gay league, which is fine. I have no problem. My daughter is gay. No problem. I got no problem with that. But the way they push things on people, sometimes I don't like it in the WNBA. That's why I'm not a big fan of watching their games and supporting it.
One of the first football players to speak up was former Chicago Bears linebacker Brian Urlacher, who stated unequivocally that he didn't comprehend the reasons behind the scandal-like treatment of an honest opinion regarding competitive fairness. Perkins Kendrick, the former NBA center who is now an ESPN analyst, had a more subdued approach but arrived at a similar conclusion, arguing that athletes should be free to respond truthfully to inquiries without having their season ruined. Into a character referendum, never one to remain silent for too long, Shaquille O'Neal spoke on his own show, implying that those seeking anything had exaggerated the whole scenario. To get furious over it wasn't limited to former athletes either. The former Olympians and current broadcasters began offering their opinions. Additionally, this is one of the things that set this event apart from a standard sports talk radio spat. Steele Sage, who has previously been vocal about concerns about justice in women's athletics, openly supported the two teenage females who were confronted by Keaton, claiming that the Storm organization as a whole was negatively impacted by their treatment, irrespective of one's position on the fundamental argument.
We're trying to almost weaponize the word kid and children to, dig deep on the feelings of people instead of the facts, which are what? The science behind this, that men and women are different. And you can call yourself a woman, you can call yourself a cat, call yourself whatever you want, but the facts are what? Trans women are men. And the W in WNBA stands for women. So I just hate it when words like that are weaponized. And Sophie Cunningham made it very, very clear from day one, when, by the way, she didn't bring this up. She was asked by an ESPN reporter about this topic, and she answered. And then as the controversy brewed, she went on Twitter and said the same thing, which is, I am not trying to exclude anyone. Everybody is welcome at my table, but this is the WNBA.
Because Steele wasn't approaching this from within the NBA like Barkley did, her remarks were significant. She tackled it from the viewpoint of a broadcaster, someone who has covered sports disputes for years and is familiar with the distinction between a player attacking someone and a player voicing their opinion. According to her reading, Sophie never crossed that boundary, and the response to her remarks revealed more about the state of affairs than anything she truly stated. After that, the number of other voices rapidly increased. Outspoken and retired swimmer, promote equity in women's sports Riley Gaines commended Barkley in public for utilizing his position to express what she had been advocating for years, but she approached it from an activist's perspective rather than a sports commentary. #1. On their own social media accounts, golf analysts and even a few former Major League Baseball players posted brief remarks. Accounts, which are just variations of the same notion that an athlete shouldn't honestly respond to a direct question, become an anti-her campaign.
I think Sophie Cunningham's comments were anti-trans.
No, not even a little. Dan, she went out of her way to say, I love everyone. This is about science and fairness and protecting women. Because guess what? Until recently, women, we had our own sets of grievances. We couldn't vote. It wasn't that long ago. You really put it in the context of the history of the world. Women couldn't vote. We couldn't get, checking accounts without the husband's signature. All these things women fought for. Women to be able to be in the workplace. All of these things. Now that we've gotten those things and we've evened the playing field, somehow there's this other level of grievance come. It's always about grievance. And this is protecting what we've earned, not about hating on anybody else.
In a first take segment, Perkins went into further depth, stating that he had covered several athletes who made contentious remarks over the years, and he was struck by how composed Sophie's circumstances were, and steady throughout, never becoming aggressive or using derogatory language, even as the backlash against she continued to get more intense. He noted that several NBA players have made even more offensive remarks regarding far more delicate subjects and have never encountered anything like the coordinated pushback Sophie has handled. However, it's important to acknowledge that not everyone was on Sophie's side. A few current WNBA athletes and a few coaches fiercely objected, claiming that her remarks, regardless of their motivation, created a hostile atmosphere for opponents and teammates who don't fit into the binary she described. Some sports pundits on other networks claimed that Barkley's remarks oversimplified a problem he didn't fully understand. A discussion about inclusiveness in sports that is even more nuanced. because it demonstrates that this isn't a case of one angry legend against an entire league. There are sincere individuals on both sides who have strong opinions about what sports fairness ought to be. Appear like some athletes have openly stated that while they admire Sophie as a rival, they don't agree with her framing. Claiming that a brief soundbite is insufficient for the discussion of inclusion from an interview can be recorded. Another layer was provided by Brittney Griner's own remarks, which fell somewhere in the center as opposed to entirely on one side or the other. Griner said media prior to a game against Sophie's squad that handling, "I didn't necessarily disagree with Sophie's right to express her opinions, but the entire scenario had gotten really unpleasant," but expressing annoyance at the amount of noise that had accumulated around a single interview response.
Besides the point. Sophie Cunningham becoming the face of protecting women and protecting girls is the most hilarious thing I've ever seen in my life. For one, she's saying that it's not about trans athletes. It's about protecting young girls. It's not about excluding only trans athletes. But you were a ring girl for somebody that has alleged allegations against women. Not only that, but being exposed by an old teammate for voting for somebody that has alleged allegations against young women and young girls. Young girls. Young girls, right? So all of a sudden, she's the face of protecting young girls and young women, but being a hypocrite. That's only one part of this conversation. The focus of shutting the doors on trans athletes being this big emphasis right now, while trans athletes are just minding their freaking business. I have not seen a trans woman.
Some interpreted it as Griner quietly berating Sophie for first causing the issue. Some saw it as Griner venting. It has nothing to do with Sophie specifically, but rather with the media circus and the incessant inquiries. What truly took place after that did a lot to determine which reading was more accurate.